How about you start by telling me how you would like to be introduced?
Amore St. Ives.
Okay, good start.
Winners never quit, and quitters never win.
Quitters win all the time. Let us show you how on Quit Happens.
Hey everyone, Lynn Marie here. Thank you so much for joining me for the next episode of Quit Happens. Before we get to today's guest, just wanted to let you know where you can find everything about strategic quitting everywhere outside of this podcast. So online, you can go to quittingbydesign.com or on Facebook and Instagram. I'm also at Quitting by Design. If you happen to be a Twitterer, you can find me at LMORSKI. That's L Morski. And soon enough, hopefully summer 2018, you will be able to finally pick up your copy of Quitting by Design, the book. The publisher told me it should be out this summer. I am very excited about this and very excited to be able to finally pass it on to all of you. So today's guest is Amore St. Ives. She is the manager at CorePower North Park, yoga studio here in North Park that is more than just a yoga studio. It is an entire community of people. She has a pretty incredible story, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, the next episode of Quit Happens. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Quit Happens. I'm super stoked to be here with Amore St. Ives. She was my yoga teacher training teacher back in 2016. That's how we got to know each other. She was the reason I did yoga teacher training because I had never considered that before in my life. And she said, let's have tea. And by the end of the tea, I was all in.
Magical tea.
Yeah, exactly. You have a deal with Calabria, don't you?
Yes.
Give everybody the special yogi tea.
Do the extra special one.
It worked. And so I ended up taking teacher training with her, and we became friends. But I think even at this point, Amore, and I learned about some of her quits through just getting to know her. But when I talked to her about being on this podcast, I think she kind of mentioned even more quits that I didn't know about. So let's just start back. What would you say was your earliest memory of a quit?
I have a very short memory and attention span, but I can tell you my most substantial quit.
Fantastic. We'll start there.
Okay. So after college, I had to make a decision on what to do with my life, right? Everyone asks, what are you going to do with your degree and what's the next step? And I didn't have a concrete answer. I went to school for psychology at UCSD, but I wasn't 100% sold that I wanted to be a social worker or I wanted to be a counselor or a therapist. So a good friend of mine that I went to school with said, have you ever thought about going into the Peace Corps? And just the ominous title of the Peace Corps, you're going to change the world and save lives and go off to far off countries was exciting. And I started to do some research and found out what the process was, and the application takes a whole 6 months, and it's background checks, and I had to get my wisdom teeth out before I went, and a whole progression of steps. And I got in, and my assignment was Ghana, Africa, and I thought was going to be an amazing opportunity for me to retrace part of my roots and just really make some active change and make a whole bunch of people proud, including my parents.
Right.
So get on the plane, don't know what to expect, overwhelmed, anxious, excited, all the feels. And then I get there and it's sheer misery.
Oh.
I mean, it's a lot of things, right? But, on the way there, we're all collaborating as the Peace Corps group, our little tribe, as far as all of our expectations, all of our goals, all of the things that we're going to change, how we're going to make a difference. We have like a whole journal of this to-do list to change Ghana, one Peace Corps volunteer at a time. And that's what society kind of teaches us. Like, you've got to have your plan, and you have to stick to your plan. And as a young adult, you have to make your mark on society. And once you choose, you're locked in, and that's what you're going to do. So I told everyone. I told all my friends, all my family. Everyone was on board and knew exactly how I was going to make this substantial difference, this change. But then a month in, I'm at this point where my goals are not aligning with my feelings. And I'm stuck, I'm stuck in trepidation of, oh shit, what do I do now? A lot of things happen. I got really sick. I was blind for a couple weeks because of a bad eye infection. I was having really bad digestional issues. What happens in the Peace Corps is they have all these assignments. They take each volunteer and they drop you into a random village. You have a cohort who comes and checks up on you with language studies, how you're assimilating into the culture. Ghana is very conservative. So as a female volunteer, you're expected to align with cultural ideals and standards. So you have to be fully covered, even if it's hot and humid. You have to drop into how women are supposed to be presented and treated. And that was really hard coming from San Diego and at a childhood of being a free spirit and then going to a very conservative place by myself. And I felt really, really lonely because it was just me and a whole bunch of Ghanaians that don't speak English and would just watch me all day as I ate and read and sat and I was on display. And the pace in a third world country is a lot slower than the United States. So my role there was health and sanitation teacher. And my goal was to go to different villages and educate them on how to keep their water clean, how to build latrines, how to keep their families safe from AIDS and HIV, kind of on my own, and just figure out how to communicate that material through my Ghanaian studies and broken English.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a lot. It was intense. And you're right out of college, a young adult, and you're like, okay, now I've got to figure out how to do this solo. So it was sad. It was very sad. And questioning big life ideas as far as who am I, what am I doing here, and am I actually serving the purpose that I came to do? I toggled with that for weeks. And each week I was getting farther and farther down into the rabbit hole. And my body was not thriving, and I was getting sicker. So there was a lot of judgment on my own part. There was a lot of fear that I had already signed the contract. I'm supposed to be in the Peace Corps for 2 years. And it's been 3 months. And if I talk to my collaborate as far as this is not for me, what does that mean about me? What does that say about me? And have I failed personally? Have I failed my family, my friends? Have I failed society? Do I go back as a broken person?
Wow. That's a lot. On top of what you're already struggling with.
Yeah. So there was a moment in self-reflection that I couldn't go another day. So I sat down with my collaborate and I said, this is how I'm feeling, and I don't think I can stay in Ghana. And that was one of the hardest things to say out loud because that made it real.
How did that meeting go?
He was disappointed. Which doesn't make anything any easier,
Not
right?
at all. No, that was my question. Like, was this person supportive? Did they understand? Or are they making it even harder by showing their disappointment? And that was
he was disappointed for sure and said, you have to be really clear about this decision because I'm going to take it back to headquarters and discuss with the powers that be.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I feel like We need to take the next step. So he did, and that was just step one. So then you have to sit down with a panel of 4 different people at headquarters and tell your story again and again and again, because they've now invested time and energy into you, and they want to make sure that you're not just having like, oh, I'm lonely and I'm sad and I'm homesick and I want to go home, that it's a legit reason for you leaving, especially so early in the game.
Yeah.
And I did, and with each and every conversation, I felt like a little bit better to say it out loud again and to say it out loud again. I was still very nervous because they were also expressing their disappointment.
Oh. Wow.
And the whole time, like since I've been a solo by myself, like I don't have my normal support system to go to talk to. I'm not in contact with my parents. I'm not in contact with my friends. I'm just trying to navigate this decision on my own.
Was there, because at that point there's no internet. You can't Skype them.
No.
This is
yeah.
somewhere in the late 90s, right?
Yeah. And like, every 2 weeks or so you'll get a care package from somebody, but that's kind of, and you're writing letters. That's kind of the contact with the rest of the world.
So had you even written a letter home to say that you were having these problems? No, they had no idea. No outlet to.
No, I mean, I wrote a letter back, but not about the challenges I was having. Just like, oh, this is what's happening, and I met these people through training, and this is what my village is like, and I'm learning, Fonte, and
Wow.
Yeah.
So to take one step back, when you first made the decision, like, I can't stay here another day, and you decided you were going to quit the Peace Corps, what was your feeling right after making that decision?
Panic. Fear. Yes. Yeah. I was in the heart of sensation, for sure.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I had never made such a epic decision to quit something.
Yeah.
Like that.
That is truly epic, because so many quits only affect us.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. Like you said, they put time and money into training you, and there goes, potentially the education of that village. All that's riding on you. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting, because generally if it does affect somebody else, it's like a family member or whatever. No, you're out there by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect all these people you don't really even know. Mm-hmm. But who are not at all shy about expressing their disappointment in your decision.
Yeah.
Wow, that is tough.
And that's the Ghanaian culture, too.
Oh.
Like, they're very to the point. They don't sugarcoat anything. They will express their displeasure.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, if anything, because is this before you started yoga?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any, because back in the late 90s, Amore and I are around the same age, it wasn't like if I had something stressful going on that I was like, let me meditate. Like, those self-care things were not popularized back then. Mm-mm. Essentially, you just had to tell somebody that was your friend.
Yeah.
Because even therapy back in the day wasn't, in fashion or okay. So if you didn't have anybody to tell, what were you doing to even keep yourself sane?
Journaling and reading.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I had some self-help books that I was actively reading, and then just journaling the hell out of every day.
Nice. So you could tell your book. You could tell the journal if nobody else was there to listen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's smart. Well, in the process, you said as you told the story more and more, you felt better and better about it.
Yeah.
Was there ever kind of the relief, even before you were able to go back to the U.S., was there a relief that just came from knowing that you had said, I'm going to quit, and that will eventually lead you to get out of here in a time period shorter than, another year and 9 months?
Yeah. So after I had told my last story and they approved me to quit the Peace Corps, they shoved me into a taxi and they give you a ticket home. And it was so pivotal. I got into that taxi to go back to the airport with all my stuff. And it was the first time I'd ever heard an English song on the radio.
Wow.
And it was Lady in Red, which was one of my favorite songs when I was younger. And I knew at that moment this rush of sensation washed over my body. And that was the moment I knew I had made the right choice.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was like the universe saying, that's home. It's okay to go home.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. When you did get home, then you had to face the secondary telling everybody.
Yes.
And tell me what kind of the internal struggles and how that went.
Well, I avoided it for a long time. So they gave me a plane ticket back to the States. The layover was in Amsterdam. I just got off the plane. And I said, I'll figure out the rest later because I'm not ready to face step 2. Yeah, I'm not ready to tell that story to all my friends and family. So I just got off the plane. I found some friends that I knew in London and another friend that I knew in Tokyo. And I just tooled around and traveled for another month. Wow. Until all my money ran out. Just to kind of really get solid with what was going on and what my next steps were and who I was at that point. Because I had already built a story of who I was going to be. And now I, had to cross off all those lines and create a new story.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of before we started recording, Amore and I were talking about identity quits. That has to have been a small version of an identity quit because being a Peace Corps volunteer, that's a thing. That is an identity people create. And that's, probably what, especially coming straight out of college, you didn't have another identity built up yet.
Of course, yeah.
Wow. So by the time you finished traveling around, you were more settled with what you were going to come back and tell people. You felt as though you were more confident in the story. Yeah.
I didn't have answers. And that's the interesting thing about our society is they always want to know, what's your plan? What are you going to do?
Yes.
And I didn't know the answer as far as what I was going to do or what my next adventure was, but I did know who I was.
Yeah.
And I knew what I didn't want. And that was enough for me.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm just going to start there.
That's the biggest thing about quitting is as long as you learn what you don't want.
Yeah.
Then that was worth it. I mean, sounds like it was super rough.
Yeah.
But you can't say that time was wasted because now you have more information
of course
with which to base your next decision.
Yeah.
Yes. Knowing what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So how do those conversations end up going?
I stuck to having conversations with close friends and family. I didn't go into letting the whole world know because I didn't think that was relevant. And I wasn't ready to rip off the Band-Aid completely. And so then I just told the people closest to me that it just didn't work out. And, I got really sick and I knew it was the right time to leave. But even until I would say 6 months ago, I hadn't shared the story with the general public that I quit the Peace Corps because I was still very ashamed, that, I decided to make this decision, this big decision, and I didn't follow through. Wow. Yeah, so there was still a lot of just shame and fear and judgment. But that's the thing, as we get older, we realize society judges. It's just a part of what is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
No.
And we're all struggling with our own sense of judgment, mostly about ourselves, that ends up kind of fingering to other people and spreading out. And that's everyone else's stuff.
Yeah.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
It's theirs. And if I was a parent, it would be the same thing. If my daughter or son came to me and said, okay, I'm going to be a doctor, and they go to school and they decide they don't want to be a doctor, that's not right for them. And 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years, they end up being an accountant or whatever they end up going into. Does it really make a difference? If they're happy, no.
Yeah.
Right. Versus if they decided to stay being a doctor and then 10 years down the road, they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who cares what the judgment is?
Right.
Because that's just momentary.
Yeah. And one of my, I think, second last guests had said she was able to make the quit when she realized no matter what her parents thought, they weren't the ones having to live their lives.
Exactly.
Nobody in society was the one having to live in Ghana for another 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people wouldn't have even signed up for the Peace Corps.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. In fact, you made it 3 months. I'm still super impressed. I would never have done that.
Yeah.
That's intense. And you're absolutely right that if somebody, I say this all the time, if somebody has your best interest in mind, like you're saying like a parent should, in theory, that they shouldn't, I try to not use should and shouldn't, but if they want your best interest, if they really have your best interest in mind, trying to force a square peg into a round hole just because that's what you said you were going to do, or because what society says you're going to do, even though it's not in your best interest, that just does not fall into my idea of like love.
Yeah.
Finding people, meeting people where they are and wanting what's best for them. Because in our society, we're all connected. If everybody's walking around, like you say, that doctor 10 years in who's miserable, how is that doing that person any good or society any good? Because they're probably road raging on their way to and from work, and they're short.
Their bedside manner is really bad.
Totally. Yeah, you don't want to be that person's patient at all. You'd much rather be their, accounting client if they really like accounting.
Yeah, they love numbers or whatever.
Exactly. It's just, I think people are hopefully catching on more and more that what society says you should be doing is not necessarily what you should be doing, and society is wrong lots of the time, Let it go. This is incredible because the chance of me finding another I Quit the Peace Corps story is next to zero, and I'm really glad you shared it. And you're saying that it took like nearly 2 decades for you to be okay with sharing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So it always was kind of this like little piece of shame that you...
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What was there kind of a, say 6 months ago, like a light bulb that went on, or was it just like a slow process that finally got to that?
Well, 2 things. So I am fortunate enough to be in the yoga community where we practice and teach non-judgment and just accepting people where they're at. And so then I have this lovely group of students and teachers and coworkers that are like-minded in the fact that you are who you are and I'm going to love you for that. And here's all the love and compassion that you need so you can share your story in a very honest and authentic way. So being in that environment has really helped me just shed layers and open up in a real way and connect with people so then they can do the same thing. And I don't know, something happened. I just turned 40, and just the prelude to this next dimension of my life has helped me realize that it's about me being me at the end of the day and accepting and loving all the things that have brought me to this moment, to this stage in my life, and sharing that with other people and not really caring about like old stories.
Yeah.
Old stories are old stories,
Yeah.
And in this moment is the actual practice.
Yeah. And those of you who aren't from North Park, San Diego, or anywhere in San Diego, or especially the CorePower community, Amore is this giant force of light. She runs the North Park CorePower. Just walking into the studio and getting to talk to Amore it's part of the yoga practice for me. Like you set the stage for such community and for such sharing. And for you to share this story, I think part of what we realize through yoga and through the feeling of connection to everybody else is if I share my story, I may be able to take somebody out of a dark place who may be going through the same thing. You encounter so many people in your day-to-day that come in for class. And I think that's a great point that you said, like, we're all in a space where it helps everyone if we open up. And like you said, they've set the stage for you to be yourself, and then you doing that sets the stage for somebody else to be able to open up and be themselves, which is beautiful. And so I really appreciate you sharing. Really, of course, barely anything after that is going to top that, but if you would just give us a little, just how you got from there to here now, where you are this force of being that light for other people and letting them be into their best selves.
I think it's been about the feedback loop, because I have the opportunity to teach people and share on a regular basis. And after class, students will come up and say, it's really resonated what you shared today. I'm going through a similar situation. Thank you for putting that out there, because now I feel more confident to share it with other people and to really show up. And so it's been the feedback that I've got from my amazing students to continue to do the process, do the work, and live the yoga in real time.
Yeah. And when you came back from the Peace Corps, you went through a number of iterations of things in life before you even ended up at yoga, right?
Yeah.
And was it just that you were in a certain job and you were practicing yoga for your own practice, and that you realized that like this is the kind of vibe or element or goodness that I want to bring to other people's lives that brought you from, you were working at UCSD, I believe?
No, Ashford University.
Okay, I knew this was school.
Yep.
What led you to make that quit to go to yoga full time?
Again, it was I've always been really good about journaling because I feel like I needed some kind of outlet to figure out like the chaos of what's going on in the mind and the heart and the balance between the two. And reading too, being undergraduate for psychology, it gets you into that mindset of like, all right, let's open up another book and take a kind of a self-love journey and try to figure out what's going on with me as I progress and grow. And so there was always that guttural feeling working at Ashford, and I was answering phones and doing admin stuff, that it was another step in helping people and trying to serve them, but not the whole picture. It was a piece of the puzzle, but I felt that I was meant to do something greater. I was meant to connect to people in a more substantial way. And then I was blessed with the fact of finding my wonderful husband who gave me the flexibility to dive into teacher training. I knew that I loved yoga, but I didn't know like what I wanted to do with it. I didn't want to like commit to anything because what if like it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
But I kept going to him. I'm like, I'm not really happy at Ashford, but I love yoga and I'd really like to do this training. And he's like, just do it. Just quit Ashford. We'll go to Bali and just sign up for the training and do it. And that's what we did. Wow. And he was my biggest support and always has been. And, I was fortunate enough to not have to work when I was going through training and just focus on yoga 100% of the time and really solidify my path. And that was the beginning, right? I mean, all collective things add to the path, but it really got me rolling on what my dharma is, what my purpose is, and how I was meant to connect with people through the practice of yoga.
Yeah. And anywhere along the journey, had you started down a road and something that you learned from your Peace Corps quit spoke to you and said, oh, nope, remember, that didn't work for you in the Peace Corps? This might be a very nebulous question, but because I've had that before where I thought the startup life was going to be great. I want to just work from home by myself. But then when I come to another job possibility and they're like, oh, it's work from home. But then I realize, it might be work from home like 24/7. And then I like think back to the startup. I'm like, oh no, that's one of the things about the startup I didn't like. I wanted to be able to turn off my computer and not have to answer to anybody from like 5 till midnight or whatever. Anything like that from the Peace Corps?
Well, I think it always goes back to that self-check-in. And in yoga, we learn about the chakras, and specifically with, finding who you are and what's right for you, and what's part of your pivotal path is the third and the fourth chakra. So the third chakra is your self-identity. And it includes like your gut, like that guttural feeling of what feels right and wrong. And paying homage to that, like when you're getting that kind of uneasy feeling, like, okay, this is my body and the energetic universe telling me that this might not be the right choice for me. And then continuing that up to the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra. And does this decision feed my soul, feed my heart? And coming back to however you tap into those feelings, whether you like to journal, whether you like to meditate, whether you like to bounce it off a friend, and really just sit with it. How does my gut feel and how does my heart feel because of this decision?
Yes.
And going from there.
Yes. When people say, how do I know if I need to quit something? I'm like, your gut will tell you.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's a perfect place to end because exactly that. You followed your gut And it's gotten you from a place where your gut was actually speaking to you in Ghana.
It was. It was saying, hey, ding, 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 red flag. You need to get out of Ghana.
Yeah. And not so subtly.
Yes.
And to the place where now you help other people follow their intuition and check in with their chakras and all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm very thrilled that you were open enough to share your journey with me and the Quit Happens audience. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for today. Until next time, everyone, happy quitting.